Morning, guys. Mark Farashi. I'm going to do one of my Yack sessions, get a little off topic here in regards to all the stuff that we've got going on with Jimmy Kimmel and free speech and basically being groomed in an authoritarian fascist country with our fearless leader. So all that being said, I want to go back a little bit in history and kind of compare what happened with Hitler and with Germany. They were a democratic society before Hitler came in, and he did basically the same thing. I have a strange feeling that Trump has got a lot of his ideas, and that whole little group he's got going on, Stephen Miller and the whole 9 yards of them, are nothing but fascists. So that being the case, you look back in history and you kind of compare what happened back then that we can kind of compare and look at and see how we can get through this on our own. Over in that France, when Germany went into France, you had a reaction of that country dealing with the Germans coming into their country that was very humanistic. We all are humans and we all have human psychology. So they had three main factions over there at the time. And one of them was just the normal populace that just tried to deal with it and keep their head down and stay out of trouble, and not be seen and just live life and avoid, right? That's a very humanistic type of thing that happens, right? So that's a big part of your faction of society. And then you had the people that joined them and basically snitched out their neighbors and gained favor from the ruling class of the fascists that were doing what they came in, all the military that came into their country, right? And so those people kissed ass and did what they needed to do to gain favor and all that. You see that happening now. And then the third was the underground, those that resisted, the resistance. And they fought and they went underground and they resisted what was happening to their country. And those are the ones that you always see in the movies, the resistance, because it makes for a great movie set when you're covering that context in regards to what happened to their country. It's the same thing that's going to happen and is happening in our country, right? Those that are wanting to gain favor go kiss ass, and you see them on Capitol Hill right now, and all just bowing down to Trump and kissing ass, right? Sitting around the table and all our fearless leader, right? So just keep it in mind that human nature is always going to rule out and be very consistent in its reactions, and we're all humans and we all have a different way of dealing with things, and this is kind of what's happening now. So in that regards, I'm the type that would probably want to join the resistance, right? And here I am talking on social media. We didn't have social media back then, so big mouths get hurt real fast, So we are where we're at. We need to keep fighting and keep putting up the point of view that we're a democracy and this is America. And it was America first before it was a fascist state, right? Who would have ever thought something like this would ever happen in our country? We were so solidified in regards to being America and standing out and being better and different than the rest of the world, America. And now the rest of the world's looking at us and they're laughing at Trump and they're watching us go through something like this. And whoever thought something like this could ever happen in our country? I grew up as a young man, as an American, born and raised in my country, fourth generation, where my heritage and my background, when I look at the history of our family and how we came over, just like many thousands and millions of other people that came into our country through Ellis Island, and migrated over to the West Coast from New York, and got one of the large land grants, and then they pissed their way through it with alcoholism back in the 30s and the 40s. And basically, I got born into nothing, where our family was very well to do at one time. Hit the gold rush, and one of our family went over to Russia. Russia, listen to me. I'm half awake here, guys. Over to Australia, of all places, and hit gold over there and brought back his money, and that's how he bought that land grant and everything, and that's how our family got started. They were dairy farmers, coming over from Italy, the Swiss Alps. There was two migrations. There was a migration that went away from Italy to get away from it, and they went over the border in the Swiss Alps, right on the Switzerland on the border, up in the hills, in a town in a place called Gortala, There's a huge, big old lake up there, and I've never been there, but I've got enough of the searching into our family heritage that we found out these things. And there was a town called Gortala, very sweet grass, very green, and they were dairy farmers. And then they migrated with that family, and they migrated over here to America. And the families were, kind of large. They would follow, and here would come one, and then here would come a cousin, and then here comes somebody else. And as I got raised, my grandfather didn't tell me about all the people that were in our family. He didn't tell me about his brother, that him and his brother got in a fight, and the brother moved to Salinas when milk got automated, and did pretty good for himself and raised his family over in the valley. And I didn't even know I had any relatives. I thought I was the last in the family tree. I was it. After me, there is no more Fascism, right? So I was sadly mistaken. There's a bunch of them that are in Salinas and in the valley. And they have the Fascism name is stamped on a lot of things there as well. With the small coliseums, the what do they call that? The baseball leagues, when they have the smaller, and they're climbing up the ladder and working towards going towards pro. Or the small little coliseums. We have one out here too. Adelanto has a small little coliseum out there, for sports and for entertainment. So it is what it is. We're fighting the good fight, and all we can do is kind of try to keep our heads down and do the best that we can to get through it. And it depends on how bad it gets. How bad is it going to get? And that they're going to try to hold on to power. Everybody just blows my mind. Everybody keeps going back to what they think is going to give them protection from something like this, right? And one of those things is the judicial system. And if you look at what Trump's doing, he's ripping down everything he can. So when it comes time for the vote and it comes time for our elections that we normally have, believe me, they're going to do everything to lie, steal, and cheat, and to stay in power. And it may not be Trump. Trump's, we all know he's failing. His health is failing, and he could die tomorrow of a heart attack with many hot hamburgers he eats. So in general, it's going to end up be J.D. Vance. That's the oligarchs. That's the big money that's backed J.D. Vance to take the reins from Trump, right? And that's what's going to end up happening. They're going to try, right? They're going to try. But we need to fight back. We need to not let it happen. Okay, so and everybody wants to, lawsuits, because that's the world that Trump lives in. He sues everybody, and that's because money. He can do that. He can get away with it because he's got enough money to fight keep the stuff going and constantly, making your life miserable because he's suing the hell out of you and playing that whole game, right? So, reality and truth, guys, realize that this is serious. It's no fun, and this is exactly what's going to happen. And you keep thinking that our American ways and our rules and our Constitution are going to protect. You think he's paying attention to the Constitution? He's not paying attention to the Constitution. Not at all, right? When the time comes to vote, they're going to lie, steal, and cheat and try to stay in power, right? That's what's going to happen. And my opinion is that it's going to end up becoming a civil war if we can fight. He's got the federal government, all the water cannons and all the, rubber bullets and all the bullshit that they can use against the populace. But we still have strength in populace, guys. We still have, but we're going to have to get real. We're going to have to get real and really do it for real. It's going to come to that time. It's going to come to pass because these guys are such idiots that they don't want to go along with the system, so they won't give up their power. Believe me, that's what I predict. Okay, and it's going to take time for people to stop thinking that all our institutions that we have and the things that we have in place are going to protect us. Is the Constitution protecting you right now? He's ripping the Constitution. He's spitting on it, right? He hasn't adhered to the judicial system at all. He's got the friggin' Supreme Court in his back pocket, right? Why do you think all that happening? Because of Epstein. Okay, you don't think that whole thing, that whole beehive of pedophilia was going on amongst the people with power? Okay, Republican or Democrat. I'm not blaming anything. That's human nature, and those assholes were doing what they were doing with friggin' Epstein, right? That whole network was going on. How many people you think that are up there that were going out and getting favors from little children, right? You think maybe one of two of the men in the SCOTUS were a part of that? You know damn well they were. That's why they're doing what they're doing for Trump, right? They got secrets to hide, right? And they know they need to get along to make sure that the other side doesn't point a finger at them. They know they're guilty, right? That's the whole crux of everything. It all comes back to friggin' Epstein and pedophilia, right? That's the reality, Right? And then the other one that blows my mind, everybody keeps saying, release the files, release the files. They've got that thing so shredded and so redacted, and so you're not going to see a damn thing if they don't want you to. Not unless somebody can dig deep and really pull it out and show some real proof. But I'll guarantee you that's what's happening. That's why our Supreme Court is no longer what it used to be. The Supreme Court used to adhere to what the Constitution was, and to be the one that said what the Constitution was and what was important within that, and they followed the Constitution. They're not doing that anymore, right? Our Supreme Court spit on it. It's not worth a shit anymore. They don't stand for our values, right? And when they turned that overhead and gave him immunity, that's when you should have saw it all coming, right? Our system is severely under siege, period, right? All right, so I'm done ranting, but reality and truth, guys, that we're going through an awful lot, and we got to get through it, and it's not easy at all. And he's got a lot of people's heads twisted on the other side, and we need to stop saying Republican and Democrats. We're still all human beings, and we're all Americans that have been born, and most of us born and raised in this country. Those that are from outside of the country that have come in, we've always had the open arms. That's what our country was started on, right? That's what that Statue of Liberty is all about. And that was what all about. It made us stronger and better than any country in the world, because we had every nationality and then some that were allowed to come over and try to better their lives, right? And then you get prejudice and racism and all the bullshit that other side brings to it. It is what it is. But it's sad, very scary. We're going to have to do a long haul, but I'm more worried about the kids and those that are coming after us that matter. Our country stood for something at one point in time. Doesn't so much anymore. Will we ever get it back again? I don't know. I really don't know. Who would have ever thought something like this could happen in America? I'll talk to you guys later. Have a good day. Mark Farashi signing off.